Disney Dreamlight Valley came out with a new update on October 19th, and it was packed full of tons of content. Because there were so many updates, I wanted to make kind of a quick video going through some of my favorite highlights from this update and some of the new features. If you haven't played Dreamlight Valley or you're still kind of early on in the story, don't worry because there will be no major spoilers in this video. But that being said, let's jump right in. One of the biggest features of this update is the inclusion of Scar from The Lion King being added to the game. Scar is such an iconic villain. He is hated so much for what he did to Mufasa, but he is also kind of iconic and he just has a lot of flair to him. Just like pretty much every other Disney villain, he is kind of quintessential in the Disney villain archetype, and I think he is a great addition to the game. One thing I noticed is Scar's voice is like very Scar. It is very deep and kind of like growly, and it just fits him so well. Something that's interesting is Scar's house was actually already in the game. He was in the valley the whole time and we didn't even know it. If you've unlocked the Sunlit Plateau, there's a giant elephant skull that is just to the right when you go up the pathway, and that is Scar's house. And really, that's about all I want to say about Scar right now. I don't want to give away any huge spoilers or anything like that, but I will say that him being added to the game has actually progressed the story further. But moving on, I do want to talk about one thing that you do unlock during Scar's kind of plot, and that is the mines. The mines have quickly become one of my favorite places in the valley. It is just so aesthetic. You go in and it very much looks like a mine. It's very small, tight, and closed, but also quite beautiful. There's a lot of color pops. The rocks that you can mine within the mines are actually very colorful. And this is where you end up getting rubies and sapphires. Now, something I love about the mines is I find it very easy to get both rubies and sapphires. In fact, the first rock that I ever mined within the mines had a sapphire within it. I won't really spoil the whole plot of what happens in the mines, but I will say that you do kind of get to explore, and it is a bit of a maze, and there's a lot to kind of find when you first are entering. So I'm sure you'll have a fun time if you haven't yet explored the mines, or if you're just gonna pick up the game and play through it for the first time. Now, I did mention that the mines are very kind of small and enclosed, and I kind of wonder, does this mean that we're going to get the 7 dwarves? As y'all know, the 7 dwarves from Snow White and the 7 Dwarves are miners, so it kind of makes sense that they would be added at some point in the future, but that is totally unconfirmed and just speculation. Now, personally, I don't think we need all 7 of the dwarves. I think we could just get maybe like 2 or 3 of the most notable ones, but 7's kind of a lot for one franchise. I don't think they're all really that necessary. But keep an eye out because I'm sure that more characters will be added, and I would be truly shocked if Snow White didn't get representation, so why shouldn't the dwarves be part of this game? Now, speaking of characters, one thing that has been a little bit controversial is the toning down of a lot of the characters. Now, if you haven't played Dreamlight Valley before or you're just new to the game, what you will quickly realize is a lot of the characters tend to talk to you pretty frequently. And one thing that really bothered people, which is understandable, is Donald's kind of like train noises, temper tantrum kind of thing. It wasn't that he did it at all, it's that he did it incessantly. He just would never stop. He just was constantly like throwing a tantrum no matter where he was on the map, and he was super loud. Now, personally, I didn't have an issue with any of this stuff because I just went into the settings menu and I just turned down the characters' voices so that I never had to listen to them if I didn't want to. But a lot of people don't know about that tip, I guess. I will say that in a lot of the communities, I think people maybe skew a little younger and won't go like reading through a bunch of posts. So you did tend to see a lot of people complain about this from time to time, and I would say like any given day on the Dreamlight Valley subreddit, you would probably get like 2 or 3 posts at least about this. So I see why Gameloft kind of made Donald's temper tantrums a little less frequent, made them a little less time-consuming, and kind of made all the characters a little bit toned down. But personally, I haven't noticed too much of a difference. I did turn the characters' voices back on so that I could kind of hear Scar and some of the other characters, but I don't think it's like all that different. So if you're kind of concerned about whether characters are going to be super friendly or just kind of like stand there not doing anything, I think there's actually definitely a healthy mixture. But all that being said, one thing I love about this change is it shows that Gameloft is actually listening to the community, and when people have enough issues with a certain feature, they are willing to make changes. In fact, this isn't related to the update, but just recently they announced that they are going to make a lot of the kinds of flashes from lightning and things like that less excessive, which will be great because these kinds of things could trigger seizures in some people and also could cause like migraines or just be really annoying to look at. I know that I'm a little bit photosensitive at times. I can get triggered with a migraine sometimes pretty easily, so I'm very thankful that they are going to kind of tone everything a little bit down and make it more palatable for the general audience. But moving away from those things and getting back to the new updates that I'm really liking, something that has been such a big bonus to me is the inclusion of the new star path that is themed for villains. Now, if you're unaware, the star path is this game's version of a battle pass. So if you're playing like Fortnite or any number of other games and you unlock different skins because you're doing certain things, that's kind of what happens in this game. Except instead of having to do matches like you would in a game like Fortnite, you're just doing tasks around the valley. So maybe you're like harvesting certain fruit, or maybe you have to talk to people. There are any number of things that it'll ask you to do, and once you complete those, you gather little like tokens that you can use to redeem for outfits or motifs or furniture or things like that. Now, I had a lot of negativity toward the star path initially because it was Pixar themed and I just thought it was so weak. It was like pulling from a lot of movies I just didn't care about, and I felt like it was missing a lot of items that could have been really cool within the system, but I am definitely much more positively favoring this new star path. For the next roughly month, we are in a path that is villains themed, and so there's all different kinds of little like accessories and furniture items that are really reminiscent of the villains in different Disney movies. One thing I love, which isn't, I guess, necessarily villain themed, but kind of fits the whole like villains, Halloween dark aesthetic, is the cat ears, which is one of the first things that you can get. It's just cute. Like, what is there to say? Cat ears will always be a timeless aesthetic and totally fit with the theme of villains while also just kind of fitting with the Halloween vibe of this month. But if you want to take it to more of a villainous, like high villain kind of aesthetic, then you can eventually get to Maleficent horns, which I'm sure a lot of people are really gunning for. Maleficent is such an iconic villain, and to get her horns, to be able to wear them, like, it will just let you live out your villain fantasy in the best way. Now, there's also actually a companion critter that you can only get in the star path, and it is called the wind-up raccoon. I personally love it. It looks like a toy. It looks kind of like Coraline-esque. It's very like creepy looking, but still very cute, and definitely the kind of, you know, good boy that you want to have next to you while you do your chores. I think that's one of the best things that you can get within this star path. Definitely make sure to go check it out and let me know what you think is one of the best items. Now, since I mentioned companion critters, I obviously have to mention the other new companion critters, which are ravens, and they can be found in the Forgotten Lands. Ravens, again, very villainous, hits the aesthetic. You can totally have like a very dark, like Maleficent kind of vibe, like any kind of, you know, evil queen. I mean, I guess you could have evil king as well, kind of vibe. I'm just super excited. I think the ravens are really cool looking, and I think that they are just adding a bit of difference to the critters that are mostly like really upbeat and perky and cutesy, and now you can have these like really kind of creepy looking animals. Now, if you want to befriend ravens, they are actually a little more difficult than the other critters though. They do require a 5-star meal as their favorite food. I know that that is really hard to hear because you have to use so many different items to create a 5-star meal, but it will definitely be worth it to have a raven by your side. In the next few days, I'm actually going to make a critter kind of guide video that all of you can follow along with if you've been having trouble getting the critters that you want to follow you and be your companion. But for now, just know that you have to go to the Forgotten Lands to get the ravens, take your 5-star meals, and you will be good to go. One other thing to note though, before we move away from critters, is that Gameloft has actually added the ability to pet your companions, which I think is so cute. They'll do a little animation and there will be like a little heart kind of animation along with them, and it's just really sweet, and I know everybody has been so looking forward to this feature. Like, it's not a good game if there's not an ability to pet the animals that are by your side the whole time. And finally, my last thing that I've really been loving about this update is all of the fixes for different bugs that Gameloft has found and that they've heard about from the community. Lots of people have been having issues with certain quests where they were unable to pick up items, such as one particular quest that involved Wally. If you know, you know, and if you don't know, it's probably because you haven't played the game yet or gotten that far, and in which case you hopefully will not have that bug. But again, I just really appreciate Gameloft and the fact that they are listening to people. I know a lot of people have been complaining that they aren't getting those kinds of bug fixes and updates out quickly enough, and like, why would they wait for the content update? Why not push it out earlier? I'm not here to shill for Gameloft, but I am here to give a bit of realism, so let me just quickly say, I don't know if it was necessarily possible for them to fix everything in the amount of time they had. Like, I don't know if they could have made a bug patch 2 weeks earlier or something like that. And on top of it, it actually can take differing amounts of time to push out updates to different platforms. So it's possible that Gameloft just figured if they had an update already in the pipeline for content, then why not just push out the bug fixes at the same time? I think that it's possible they were looking for a solution that could make sure everybody got the bug fixes at the same time and that it wouldn't jeopardize their content update or that it wouldn't like cause additional bugs. Please keep in mind, if you have been really frustrated because like maybe you're working your way through the story very quickly, this is the only game you play and you're just making so much progress, I don't think that's how the game was intended to be played at all. So again, I'm not here to shill for Gameloft. I'm not here to, excuse any of the issues that they have had and the fact that they haven't been the most communicative. But I do think that some people have unrealistic expectations for what is possible of a team when you have to keep in mind that they aren't necessarily the largest game development team of all time. And their company works on multiple different games. It's not just Dreamlight Valley, so we don't really know what it looks like behind the scenes. These are real people working on this game. I'm just very appreciative that they're continuing to put out free content for us. I know the game's in early access, so like they're supposed to, but I am just very happy that they are giving us so much content and that they have addressed some of the concerns, because some of them have been game breaking and it's good that they did eventually find a fix for them. But anyway, that was everything I had to say about Disney Dreamlight Valley's October 2022 update. I'm just so excited to see what the future of this game looks like. I think that if the star path and the addition of Scar and the continuing story is really anything to go off of, there's just so much that is planned for this game. But for right now, let me know what you think about this new update. Are you really excited to get any of these Star Path rewards? Who do you want to see in the game next? What do you think about the 7 dwarfs being in the game potentially in the future? Definitely leave me a comment to let me know. Also, make sure to like this video if you like Dreamlight Valley so that I know you're still interested in this kind of content, and subscribe if you want to see more Dreamlight Valley content because I do have some planned in the pipeline. But thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.